Are you ready to take your organization to the next level and become a game changer in your industry? Then look no further. Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, where we bring you the world's top business thought leaders to share their secrets to success, from leadership development to finance, marketing, self-development, human resource management, and much, much more. Our guests reveal the strategies, tactics, and mindsets that have made them so successful. So let's dive in and learn from the best in the business. Hello and welcome back to another great episode. Today, you probably have been asking for a long time, how can I start a business in the US? How can I make it in US? Well, you are in for a great treat because my next guest, perhaps for the first time over the last 8 years we've been doing this, has written a book for people like you and I, people who are ambitious, people who want to create a business in the US or expand their operations to the United States. And so if you want to know how to do it in such a way that you avoid a lot of headache that some people tend to have, stay tuned and find out more on how you can do it best. And my guest is Matthew Sawyer. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you. It's a delight to be here and speak with you and your audience.
Incredible. And with me, to make it even better, is my dear friend Kylie. Many of you know Kylie from our book, that a great leadership book we put out this year. And Kylie has just literally moved to the United States. So she has some questions that I know you two have. Is going to be helping you to ask Matthew, so that we can make the conversation even as more helpful as it can be. Kylie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. I'm super excited.
Excellent. Matthew, you have discovered something about people who want to start business in the US or want to expand to the US in preparation to launching your book. Would you share with our audience very briefly before we talk more about you?
So thank you. So one of the things that I found out is that when I was doing research for the book, I spoke to about 150 people in 40 different countries about the idea of building a business and bringing it to the United States. And I remember interviewing someone who was an Italian who was living in Germany. And I said to him, have you considered bringing your business to the United States? And he said, I'd love to, but I don't even know where to start. And so it was really for that person in mind, is sort of giving them a really full picture so that when they try to expand or open a business in the United States, that they're doing it with minds wide open.
I'm glad that you did that because you are going to help a lot of people, indeed. Now, a little bit about Matthew. He's a goal-getter, marketing strategist with experience of helping US and international companies through his company, US Accelerator, and recent book, Make It in America, How International Companies and Entrepreneurs Can Successfully Enter and Scale in the US Markets. Matthew offers a comprehensive roadmap, which I'm hoping we're going to explore today, as well as support to entrepreneurs like yourself and myself and many other people here in the United Kingdom embark on this great journey of making it in the US as a foreigner. So once again, welcome to the show, Matthew. I'm excited about having you, actually. Very, very excited.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, before we start recording, Kylie had a specific question, and I would love to start with that question because I think a lot of people will be on there. Kylie, over to you.
Thank you. So starting at the very beginning of somebody's journey, so whether they're a business owner already or an entrepreneur looking to expand into the US or even move to the US and start a new venture or a new business, before all of that, there's usually a little bit or a lot of that self-doubt and that fear moving to another country and starting over. So Matthew, what would be some of your advice to those that are listening and maybe sitting in that doubt space about actually fulfilling that dream of coming to the US and starting or expanding their business?
Yeah, I think that it really starts with, doing your homework and really investigating in terms of doing research, which can be done outside of the country, and certainly having local experts, people who are can help you in terms of navigating, whether it's doing market studies. That's one of the things that US Accelerator was set up to do, is to be the most trusted source of information, advice, connections for people coming into the United States, and particularly in terms of businesses. We're more focused in on established business, ones that already have their minimum viable products set up, as opposed to, a startup. There are other organizations that are better suited to that. But it's that idea of really understanding what's going on and then finding really good local support.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your opinion, is America still a good place to expand business?
Well, in my view, it's the very best place. It has the largest economy in the world by far. It's like 10 trillion more than the second largest, which is China. It's also the most stable economy. Over the past 40 years, it's consistently been 25% of the overall worldwide economy, as reported by Morgan Stanley and other folks as well. And in addition, there's so much support with regards to financial services. Americans are some of the wealthiest in terms of purchasers and business to business. And we like things that are authentic, that come from other countries. So I think it's really the perfect place. It isn't easy. There's a lot of competition, and Americans can be very picky about what they choose, but the sky's the limit.
Incredible. I love that. Now, for anybody who has done their research, they know that the people that can use their services is over there in America. After that, what would you consider to be the very first step toward making their dreams come true of entering the US?
Well, it's really going through, and in my book I have there's a checklist of things to go through, as well as there's a framework in terms of how to go about putting together that go-to-market, that go-to-US plan. And it first starts with setting, well, what are the clear objectives, in terms of what does winning mean? What is the objectives? And then after that, determining, okay, well, where are we going to then go in? Where's going to be the beachhead? And the beachhead could be the market, whether it's the city. It could also be the product. There was one case study in the book about a company, Rensen, which is a Belgian company, that had a whole host of different products in terms of outdoor structures, architectural structures, ventilation systems, all sorts of. And what they did is they identified, well, the one business that they had, which was the most unique and different, which were these outdoor structures like carports and things like that. And so they focused in on that. And then after 5 years, then they were expanding to other parts of the country. They were also building their own factory. So identifying what those marketplace, and then figuring out, okay, well, how are we going to win? Is it going to be a pricing strategy? Is it going to be uniqueness and going to the market? So it's putting together that whole strategy.
I like that, as with anything, if you've got clarity of what you're going to do, you probably have the battles there. But in one of your case studies, which you alluded to in one of the interviews I was listening to, of this particular company that went into the US, and after 2 years, they shut the business down because the investors were no longer interested. Would you share that story with everyone?
Well, there are a couple of stories. There's the one story which, the UK probably knows, which is your Tesco. That came
yes.
to the US and came in, I think it was about 2007. And they invested a lot of money. They did some research, and within 5 years, they ended up leaving to what was reported to be $1 billion loss. And we can go into sort of the reasons why that happened. And then there was another case study in the book about a German company. I don't know if that's the one you were referring to.
Yeah, probably the one that I was referring to.
Yeah, so that was a 120-year-old window company called Mank. And they made very fine windows, and they had sold some into the United States, but they said, oh, there's a huge opportunity there. So they got a business partner and they built a $10 million factory. And then within, I think, 3 or 4 years, I think it was actually maybe 2 or 3 years, that they ended up closing up shop, closing the factory, and then going back to Germany. And they made just a whole host of mistakes. One of the most almost comical ones is they didn't really investigate, what type of windows that we use here in America. So in America, we use windows that are either double hung windows or ones that are casement, where you push it out of the structure. Whereas in Germany and a lot of Europe, it's more of the tilt and turn and pull it into the room. And then in addition, their windows were twice as much money as the ones here, because they were incredibly energy efficient. But at the time, this was about 2014, 2015, that the energy prices in the United States were a lot less than in Germany and in Europe, so that Americans weren't going to pay so much of a premium, because it would take them too long to pay it back. So it was a case of really not doing their homework, as Kylie, as we were talking about before, and really not investigating and really not knowing the marketplace before, jumping in.
What's interesting to me is both of these companies. The other one was massive, like you say, the Tesco one. I didn't even know about this one, actually. Fascinating. And it is relatively smaller, not really small, because if you're talking of several million, that's not really, really small. They both failed. In your analysis, as an expert in this area, what could they have done different to ensure that their success? Because I'm quite sure that people listening, they want to know what these two different companies could have done better.
Yeah. So let's look at each one of them separately. So in the case of Tesco, what they did is that they had an idea for a particular small store format. They put it into Los Angeles, which they felt people could be able to then walk to. It was going to be very convenient. And then they packaged all of the groceries up wrapped them in plastic. And then they felt that, okay, well, Americans are going to adopt to this new style, as opposed to really understanding what Americans want. So the typical American supermarket had, I think it was 6 or 7 times as many products as what the Tesco was. So Tesco had a narrow selection of products, whereas Americans don't shop every day and they like to get a lot, as well as when they picked going into the Los Angeles market, where people don't walk, they only drive. So that was not but it was, I think actually in talking to people, and it's not my opinion, but in talking to people, they felt that the Tesco executives were a bit arrogant in terms of, saying, well, we have a better idea and the Americans are going to adapt to our better idea, which is actually similar to the German window company, because they felt our windows were 10 years. The CEO said our windows are 10 years more advanced than what they have in the US, and then they're going to, of course, love our more advanced technology. But it comes down to, well, what is best, right? Is best, in the most, in most advanced, or is the best the one that solves the problem in the most cost-effective way? So I think that really understanding what is this word best, and in marketing and in a lot of management, we talk about product market fit. Really understanding that is really important.
What stands out for me in that conversation is what we as executives do can impact the entire organization if they are taking time to listen and research and consider the local experts, so to speak. We could be talking about a different story.
Yeah, and also just listening, in terms of, are we going to be open-minded in order to listen, to what the difference is, the local market, really observing. And another company that did it very well was the company Italy. I don't know if you have that in London, but Italy is a market where it has restaurants, shopping, grocery shopping, as well as classes and opportunities for learning. And what they did is they came in with a new idea, which was unique to the American market. Right. But then they listened to, and they brought in a lot of local experts. They brought in a lot of local farmers. They brought in a lot of suppliers that were local. And they said, well, we have a certain standard in terms of quality that we want you to adhere to. Right. And so they were a tremendous success, and they've since grown. I think there are about 8 or 9 Italys in the United States, and there as well as around the world.
Wow. Well, it's a great lesson to learn from there. I'm going to move to talk about maybe perhaps the second step that business owners need to consider. But before I do that, I wonder if Kylie have got any questions to ask at this point.
I do. I guess it follows on from my first question, Matthew, and it's a quick one. What would you say after all your consultation and the process of writing your book, so all of those interviews and those engagements that you've done, what would be the most common misconceptions about doing business in the US?
Yeah, I think that, and it's interesting. I remember talking to someone in Australia who said to me, I'm not sure whether I should bring my company to Europe or I should bring it to the United States. I think I'll bring it to the United States because it's just one big country. Everyone speaks the same language. And, it was sort of this misperception in terms of, but in fact,
I think I know where this is going, but I'll let you finish.
And that really, it's 50 different, states, and each one of them has their own laws and regulations. There's so many variations in terms of the different cities, in terms of what's important. There are 9 different climates, everything from freezing Arctic frozen to the desert. There's so much diversity. So I think the biggest misperception is that, they underestimate how big and diverse the United States is, which I think is an advantage, because one of the things is that you can find sort of your niche. There's so many niches out there, whether it's people that you like to be around, whether it's different cultures, where if it's, there's lots of opportunities, but finding that niche is very difficult, or can be difficult.
I remember when I was in the US, in California, speaking to others, and I was talking about my podcast and about the niche that we were in there, and the differences in responses I was getting is different from what I got from when I was in Florida. I thought, oh my goodness, completely different. So it's I second what you just said there. It's really amazing. Moving on to the second questions here, because of our time, I think we're just going to go up to the 3 steps that people need to take. But what would you consider as the expert that people ought to take on?
Well, I think it's really this idea of, doing the homework and really doing the investigation. I think that that's really critically important. And then, I also feel that, taking an approach that's sort of test and learn, maybe trying to come into one location, or introducing one product, or, doing something, or even if it's on the marketing front, we always test different approaches and then seeing what works, and then doubling down and doing more of what seems to work. So, it's while it's important to have a strategy, it's also important to know that that strategy is probably going to change, but at least it puts you in the right direction.
Well, try and test and see what happens. Always seems to work because you can always pivot and respond to the market, what is happening, what the market needs, and take the right course of action. One of the things I often like to know about is the mindset that a winning mindset, so to speak, for those who are looking to start or scale in the US. In your opinion, what would you consider to be that winning mindset?
Well, I can't talk for everyone, but I can kind of talk for what worked for me in terms of how I've been successful and it's been sort of a curiosity and trying new things. And I started my career. I first was working in advertising, and then I moved from advertising to product management, and then into consulting and working for a startup, and then working as a professor. And, so it's, taking, trying things and not staying still. I've also worked in different types of organizations, everything from a startup of 5 people to a Fortune 250 company. Private companies, public companies, nonprofit companies. So it's really that trying new things. Not everything works. At one point, I tried being a salesperson, and I found out that I was not a very good salesperson. Because I was more, I'd be sitting and I'd be chatting, and I would be more, I wanted to have friends and consulting. I wasn't very good at it. So trying things and then seeing what you're not good at too.
Incredible. Yeah, that's the only way you find what you're effective, and then stay in your strength.
Yeah. There was a quote that said, if you're not in over your head, how do you know how tall you are?
I like that. Kylie, any questions from you? I know you've got some few that you prepared for.
Oh, I do. What would you say, Matthew, are some of the key lessons learned from people you've spoken to that have come to the US? There's lessons learned in failure, I guess, as well, but those that have succeeded or experienced even a little success in the early days, what would you say some of those key lessons learned are for all of us?
And every situation is different. So in my book, there are 15 different case studies. And at the end of each case study is about 3 or 4 pages long. And after each, there are 4 key lessons from each one of them. But I think, some of the ones that, maybe are common, of this idea of really understanding who the customer is and tailoring things to their needs, appreciating the difference between the US and in some cases where someone tried to bring something in, even if it's a website that might be in the same language, but it needs to be, tailored for the United States. And then also, surrounding and putting together really a good team. You really need, it takes a team of people, both people who are local, who really understand the market, as well as the experts in the particular, whether it's technology or whatever. So you really need this diversity of team.
I have to say, I'll come to a point where if it has to depend on me, I'm not doing it. We need to have team. When you partner with other people, it becomes so much easier. You get a lot done fairly, perhaps quickly, and you can go even further.
Yeah.
Incredible. As we come toward the end of our time together, is there anything perhaps that I've not asked you, but you feel quite that it's important for people to know about when they're thinking about getting into the US?
Only the sense that, not to be dissuaded. It's interesting is that I just hired a new young public relations firm that just recently started. And they were talking about how it's much easier to start a company and to build a company in the United States than they ever thought. So,
Okay.
and I also remember talking to someone who was from the country of Colombia, and said, well, he built a company, and he said that, you know, he could build 10 companies in the US versus what it would take to build one in Colombia, just in terms of the legislature and all of the difficulties and whatever. So while it might be daunting, I think that there really is a lot of success stories, and there are a lot of people rooting for you to be successful and want to help you to be successful. So I would encourage people to give it a try.
That's right. Kylie?
I'm nodding my head furiously here, Matthew, because even in the last 4 weeks since we arrived in the US, I've been absolutely mind blown by just the kindness and connection with all of the Americans that I've met through either networks, business or professional. And that's been, not to say that Australians don't do that, but that has been a big, I guess, shock for me. That's been a big difference for me in the business world, is that Americans, when they say, let's catch up for a coffee, like, it was great to meet you at that networking event, they follow up and they actually do what they say. That, as an Australian, has been wonderful to me, because if you wait for that in Australia, sometimes you're waiting years. So yeah, it's been absolutely a wonderful adventure so far. So that's why I'm nodding my head in agreement that there absolutely is such a buzz and so much opportunity in the US. So if anybody's thinking about doing it, do it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because there's such a huge opportunity. It's almost like, you know, we feel that, you know, of course we all want to win, but it's okay. We like other people to win too. So having this, coming here and dealing with Americans with this win-win attitude, you know, is one that really works here.
Well, for those who wants to really take this on, I know we covered quite a bit here, but there is a lot more to learn about making it big in the US. Where can people find you, Matthew?
Yeah, well, first, they can find my book, Make It in America, how international companies and entrepreneurs can successfully enter and scale in US markets, which is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and every major bookseller. It was put out by Wiley Publishing last year. And then if they want to get in touch with me, either on LinkedIn or my business, and it is USAccelerator.biz. And it's just Matthew at USAccelerator.biz.
Incredible. Any social media at all?
LinkedIn is the one I go to the most. And then I do Instagram, but that's more for like funny pictures with my family and things like that. So you're welcome to look at those.
It's all great. Well, we truly are blessed to have you, Matthew, to share with us your journey. And thank you for your generosity with that. And truly wish you the very best in your endeavor in helping people like myself and Bill and many people here in the UK try to make it in the US. Thank you.
My pleasure. And please look forward to talking and meeting a lot of you in the future.
Incredible. And also, Kylie, thank you so much for being here with me too.
Thank you. Great to see you again, and lovely to meet you, Matthew. It's been very insightful.
Indeed. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you really are interested in going to the US, make a difference, help people there, because it is all about solving someone's problem. And if you have a thing that you want to help people in America, at the same time, be compensated well and create a lifestyle for yourself, you now know where to find more information. One of the things I truly love about what we do is we are in a position of bringing the right people to you at the right time. Just like Kylie have discovered, Matthew, here, you may be able to get to America and find the people to help you. So just go to MatthewSawyer.com and find out more information, or just go to USAccelerator.biz.com. All these links will be below this audio for you to access, so you can reach out to Matthew. And as we always say, never leave a place where you discover something important, something that resonates with you, without scheduling it when you're going to implement that, so that you can take massive step forward. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to live well and do everything you can at the best of your ability. And live well, live with passion, and know that the best truly is yet to come. Goodbye for now. Thank you for tuning in to Yeukai Business Show. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode and have gained valuable insights and inspiration from our amazing guest. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review to help us spread the word. Also, be sure to check out our Leadership Ultimate Success Mastermind program, which is designed to help you and leaders in our community to do great things and support each other along their leadership journey. Until next time, live well, live with passion, know that the best is truly yet to come.